Dear Vivienne, it's such a pleasure to have an opportunity to interview you today. Still 7 weeks before our Data in the Future of Financial Services Summit on 17th of May in central London. I hope you're looking forward to that because we very much looking forward to see you chair.
Thank you so much, Ekaterina. I am enormously looking forward to the Data and Financial Services Summit. It's always a fantastic event. There's an incredible lineup of speakers again this year, from government to experts to lawyers to financial services gurus. We have everybody. So really looking forward to the big day.
Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. Let's get down to the questions. Across the UK financial services and financial regulation, AI and data-led opportunities and risks are more evident than ever. So how can we actually deliver on trustworthy innovation in data and AI? And what are the main challenges at the moment?
Oh, that's a really good question. There's so much talk about innovation and particularly the role of artificial intelligence in financial services. The reality is that the financial services sector has been innovating and leveraging AI for a long time already. So there's a big track record, a solid track record for innovation in data and AI in the financial services sector. But there are some key factors that need to be considered in order to be successful. And I would say the first one is that we need to ensure optimum access to data. And that means data not just from the UK, but from across the world. We need access to quality data. The second key element is that actually we need to have clear laws and regulations around the permitted use of data. And we're seeing the UK make great strides in this space. We have the second iteration of the UK Data Protection and Digital Information Bill, which is currently before Parliament. And that's focused on a number of things, including how organizations can leverage data in the context of scientific research for commercial purposes. It also aims to make a lot of the existing requirements simpler and clearer for organizations to follow. And when I'm saying simpler and clearer, that's not just the big organizations, it's also the SMEs. Let's not forget the fintechs and the smaller organizations and those challenger organizations in the financial services sector that constitute such a large part of what we do, and they are tremendous innovators. We also have the new ICO guidance just published on artificial intelligence, and that's focusing on what do we mean by fairness and better understanding the lawful bases for processing. So we need clear laws and regulations around permitted use, and we're seeing that transpire in the UK, and we look forward to hearing more about that during the actual event. And then the third thing that we need to have is organizational governance and adherence to those laws and requirements. And what I mean by that is that organizations need to ensure that their house is in order so that they can innovate with confidence and ensure customer trust. So access to data, clear laws and requirements, and organizations need to adhere to good data governance because that's the solid foundation on which innovation can build.
I wanted to talk about data flows. As we know, every firm relies on data flows at this day and age. And why do you think they're so important for financial services at the moment?
Well, data flows are the lifeblood of the digital economy, and financial services is one of the most digitized sectors of all. Financial services is also global. So even if your bank is local, the network of financial services providers is global and relies heavily on international transfers to comply with a range of requirements like know your customer, anti-money laundering, to address cyber fraud and crime, to access capital markets, to provide services to customers globally when they travel or transact with individuals and businesses abroad. The financial services sector is one of the most global, and so the reliance on data flows is critical to its ability to operate efficiently and effectively, and also to meet the expectations of customers. Open banking, of course, is key to financial inclusion and innovation and relies on access to data and data sharing. And we're seeing data sharing as an increasingly important strategic issue, not just for the UK, but for different countries across the world, as they recognize the importance of data for enabling the digital economy, but also for facilitating the society in which we live. Everything we do and touch is increasingly digital, and that needs data to be successful, and it also needs to be handled safely and securely.
Yeah. Okay. So if we think about headwinds and the tailwinds, what are they?
Well, I would suggest that one of the biggest headwinds is the fragmentation of data laws globally. So we've already spoken about the need for data to flow, how data is actually the driver for our digital economy and financial services. But what we're seeing is an increasing amount of fragmentation on data laws, and that's resulting in data localization and data sovereignty approaches in many different countries, where they're restricting the flow of data. They're putting up barriers to the sharing of data, and they're making the environment so much more difficult to innovate in relation to data, which is really challenging. I think one of the other things that often we don't think about is that when we have new technologies and new initiatives, things that are super creative and interesting out there, criminals are the first adopters. And I think that can often put people off. But we must remember not to be put off, because what they're trying to do, of course, is to exploit the newness of innovation. And what we need to do, particularly as businesses, is to adopt and demonstrate responsible use of new technologies like Web 1.3.0 and responsible use of AI to build trust and confidence in new innovations and the use of data. Some of the tailwinds, of course, are that the digital approach is being adopted across both developed and developing economies. So we're seeing a real push to ensuring that data is available publicly and is available readily. And this is a government strategy in lots of jurisdictions. So certainly in the UK, we're seeing it popping up in the Caribbean, across EMEA, and in Asia. Businesses won't wait to innovate because customers are demanding digital solutions. And so what we're seeing is this exponential increase in adoption of digital finance during COVID. So some key themes are digital identity and verification, where there's a lot of innovation taking place. So the tailwinds are the fact that many countries across the world are looking to a digital future. Businesses are innovating. Individuals are showing that they're much more comfortable with adopting an innovative approach, and certainly digital when it comes to finance. And of course, digital identity and verification are hugely important in ensuring trust in the system.
We are very pleased that we're going to have several regulatory bodies speaking at our event. To start with, of course, the ICO Commissioner, the Bank of England speakers, as well as the FCA officials. What do you think? How is the regulatory landscape is impacting us at the moment? It is, of course, a broad question, but if we look at the topics of the conference, in relation to the data flows and other things we've discussed today.
Oh, excellent question. The thing is that data is unique, and it's really the context in which it is used that is important. And the way in which we're innovating, we've known this for many years in financial services. We're not just regulated by the FCA. Financial services has changed and evolved enormously, and what it requires is cooperation from multiple regulators. So one of the initiatives that's really very positive is the Data Regulators Cooperation Forum, which is bringing together the ICO, the FCA, Ofcom, and the CMA, working together on issues where data is key. Hugely important that. And that regulatory cooperation makes for regulatory coherence. It means that firms aren't stuck as piggy in the middle, trying to manage one regulator off another. And it shows that the regulators really understand the thread of data that goes through all different regulatory silos. So seeing that regulatory awareness and cooperation to achieve coherence, to avoid unnecessary overlap and duplication, and to learn from each other is a tremendous example, and we're seeing it being replicated outside of the UK as well.
Great. So at the event, in addition to chairing, you will also be moderating I think an exceptional panel on digital assets and privacy, with kind involvement of Bank of England, Onfido, Securus Limited, as well as BNY Mellon. Without betraying the actual content, what do you think will be the key points of discussion at this panel?
Oh, fantastic question. I'm really excited about that panel, actually, and a tremendous group of speakers, particularly given that the Bank of England has recently issued its consultation paper on central bank digital currency, and also the Treasury has issued its consultation on digital assets. So it couldn't be more timely. But basically, digital assets and privacy is an area which hasn't perhaps received as much focus as it should, although I would give a shout out to the Bank of England. They've got an entire chapter in their consultation on privacy, which is absolutely super. But the thing with blockchain, which is that infrastructure on which digital assets sits, is that the way it is architected, the way it works, is giving rise to some significant challenges for existing privacy concepts. And what I think we're going to have to do is figure out a way to marry the two together, or to flex the framework so that it can result in the outcomes that we are seeking, even if it doesn't follow the exact stages and principles that are there today. So, for example, blockchain is immutable. Well, that's great for auditability and transparency, but it does create certain challenges for concepts of deletion and confidentiality. Blockchain is global by default, so where are we going to go for a regulator or applicable law? How do we address international transfers? Blockchain is also mostly decentralized, so who is the controller and the processor in privacy speak? Who is responsible for decision making? Do we need to think of a different responsibility construct, and are there ways that technology or process can help in that space? So I think it's going to be a very rich and full discussion, because there are a number of issues and themes that need careful addressing, but I think we're also going to have to dig deep into our regulatory toolbox and policy toolbox to figure out ways that we can actually achieve the outcomes that we want to achieve, but I think it might be with some different tools.
Thank you so much. That's incredibly interesting, and it was such a pleasure to have you speak with us today. Thank you for freeing your very, very busy schedule. I would like to finish this interview with inviting everyone to join us in central London on 17th of May for the event, which I'm sure is going to have a tremendous practical value to all of you. And wishing you all a great day. Thank you. Thank you, Vivienne.
Thank you, Ekaterina. See you on the 17th.